What's up, everybody, and welcome back. I'm your host, Markel Tolliver, and you're listening to Momentum with Markel. So excited for today's episode, focused on youth and education. I have with me the honor and privilege of having 3 Chicago educators in the room with me on our podcast. First, we have the Dean at Titlton Elementary, Johnny Daniels.
Appreciate you for having me.
We have the Executive Director of Sneakers2Scrubs, Johari Shuck.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Of course. And lastly but not least, we have the founder of Root2Fruit, Aisha Oliver.
Greetings. Gratitude, brothers.
Yes, for sure. Thank you all for coming out and actually being on the podcast to talk about our youth and Chicago's youth and education. I know that you guys are all in education somehow, working with youth. So we'll start with you, Aisha. Just tell us what you do, what organization you work for, and the work that you guys do for youth.
Absolutely. Root2Fruit Youth Foundation is it's an organization that I started I was about maybe 19. But at this point, Root2Fruit has shifted from being an organization to a model of what community-led diversion looks like. So every kid that I have underneath me is now in their 20s, but I usually grab these kids when they're about 8 or 9 years old. So I stick with starting with 3rd graders, and my goal is always to walk through life with them. So Root2Fruit is literally like planting the seeds, nurturing it, watching it grow. And the key to all of that is using that motherly love and figure and nurturing to get them to tap in, and then to let them know that like you have a network, you have a family outside of your family. So no one falls through the cracks as long as we are supporting one another. So Root2Fruit has really been about making sure that kids in our community have more than one representative, more than one advocate, but also that they get to feel what love is both in and outside of their homes.
For sure. I love that. Then we have the Executive Director of Sneakers2Scrubs, Johari Shuck. Please tell us what you do and what your organization focuses on.
Sure. So Sneakers2Scrubs is focused on getting more Black folks into the healthcare pipeline. We need more doctors so that we have better outcomes in our communities, right? And so our focus at Sneakers2Scrubs is to introduce Black athletes into the pipeline to get them to kind of tap into all that they have as athletes and transition that into medical careers. So we work with middle school students on through, college student athletes. So there are different levels, but we're focused on guiding them each step of the way. And even those kids that aren't interested in the field, we just give them exposure to healthcare, experiences, issues, so that maybe they can take something back to their families about something that they learned about their health. So that's what we do. We're on the south side and the west side, the best side.
Yes.
And
Sure.
yeah, we were doing good work.
Yep, impactful.
Yeah,
Impactful
and we're
work.
new, so we started in 2023. So
Cool.
yeah,
Yep, congrats.
thank you.
And then we have the Dean at Titlton Elementary, Johnny.
Yes, sir. Dean at Titlton Elementary. I'm also a founder of an after-school program. I don't have a name for it. I just called it Titlton Male Mentoring. So essentially, it's really teaching the guys things that their fathers would teach them. You get what I'm saying? So in this population that we're working with, unfortunately, it's a lot of either incarcerated or deceased fathers, right? So it's a lot of lack in certain aspects. So we go over a lot of emotional intelligence. We talk about social emotional learning. We also have guest speakers every Wednesday, just trying to expose them to different careers so that they can have some type of insight or, and on Fridays, we get something to eat. Just based off of their behavior, I allow 3 meal pickers. So, having like a reward system for them. And I just try to be there for them in every aspect that a mentor would be there for them. So.
Something that you guys already, each one of you have talked about or touched on already is exposure. Talk a little bit, starting with you, Johari, how your organization works to expose our children and our youth to things outside of what they're used to.
Yeah, so the founders of Sneakers2Scrubs, they were all athletes at top levels. They were all either college athletes or professionals. They decided to pursue something else, and so they're a big draw. They are able to relate to the kids because we talked about that. Like, that's what they see. That's what they see as their only opportunity. But when they see, all these amazing men who look like them, who can, talk like them, wear dope sneakers like them, then that gives them something to relate to. And then that really gets them in the door. So, like, we have our founders that have gone around as first-year medical students because they founded Sneakers2Scrubs as first-year medical students. And so they were going around, doing all that and then coming to the communities, playing ball with them, and then talking about this is what you can also do. You can be an excellent student and an excellent athlete, and they epitomize that. So just like by being there, they're seeing something different, which is what like the big part of all of it is. You got to see something for you can even consider that you can do that. So.
Yep.
Sure.
A quote that my mentor always taught me was representation matters. And so if I could see myself in you, if I could see, like you said, wearing those dope sneakers, coming from the same block as me, I'm able to see myself.
Yeah, and it's not just that, it's like the relatability because kids can sense when you're a little bit off, you don't have that cool relatable factor, so you have to bring that too in order to break through all that because, kids see through, know what.
For sure.
Anything from you, Johnny, on that about exposure and just being there for our kids?
Oh, most definitely. Even so much that like having guest speakers at like Miss Aisha, she came through, blew the spot. The kids still asked for her. You get what I'm saying? So exposing other people that carry a certain like her. I would love to have you to see you tomorrow. You get what I'm saying? So you get what I'm saying? So just exposing them to people that do different things in the community that they may not have an opportunity to touch. You get what I'm saying? So I think that could really, and a lot of guest speakers that we have had lasting impacts on them. Like they've been researching, hey, Mr. Daniels, I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to check this out. You get what I'm saying? It could be something simple that they may not run across on a daily basis. Like, for an example, like someone that fixed elevators. I ain't even know they make that much. You get what I'm saying? It's different things. So exposing them to that. And even so much of something that I'm doing right now is character. So we doing a character audit. So we checking our belief systems. You know what I'm saying? Because I tell them whatever you believe in is gonna manifest in a public setting. You get what I'm saying? So we going over a character audit. And so just exposing them to like different things like that, emotional intelligence things, and seeing them actually put it into practice in real time is something that not only that's helping them with exposure, but it's helping me too as well as grow as a person.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
Aisha.
Man, everything that I do has this one element, which I feel like this is one thing that people didn't do for me when I was younger, and I made it my business to be like, you know what, I'm going to change that, and that is to train my replacement. I live by that saying, like, everyone knows that when I go somewhere, I usually have a couple of those guys with me. I usually have some of these kids with me because one of my goals has always been like, there should have been somebody to show me how to run a nonprofit. I shouldn't have had to like crash and burn before I learned how to do this. But in doing that, what I figured out was like, you know what, if I can show these kids the process, then there's a different type of buy-in because every part of what I've done, they have ownership in. You are the reason that this exists. So you should know that like at some point I'm gonna have to take a back seat and somebody's gonna have to be ready to step up. So like I take them everywhere. So if I go in meetings, whether it's corporate, whether it's hospital, whatever it is, somebody's got to go with me. And then you can go back and tell the rest of the team, but we always work around that. It's also, man, I remember just being a mom and understanding that there were things that I did for my kids that, some people may not have done. I used to raise money, like save money and get a van, and I'd drive these kids out of town somewhere. I'm like, man, we gone for like 3-4 days. We need to just get away from the city.
For sure.
We gonna go to somebody else's city. We gonna get an Airbnb, and we just gonna kick it. Like, there's no strings attached. And like the way, I remember our first trip, I took them to a homecoming in Atlanta, where I went to school, and I took like 12 boys. And on the way there, we went to, that year, it was Clark Atlanta and I think Clark Atlanta and Morehouse was at the same time.
That's clear.
So the whole AUC is busting. There's people everywhere.
I wish I should have been with you.
Man, I'm talking about turned up. And on the way back, like driving back home, I could hear them in the back like, man, I can't wait to go to school. I can't wait to go to college. I can't wait to do, man, I was like fighting back tears up there like, man, this it. Like they just needed something to like flip that switch for them. And sometimes it's just seeing what exists outside of like our home. So for me, it's always like, if you want to see a community change, invest in the people that call it home.
Yep.
Hey,
For sure.
hey, that's what I was talking about. For real, that's what I was talking about. I love it.
I know that all of you guys are parents, and you did mention that a couple of times. So talk about that. Talk about the importance of being a parent, and then actually being in this field of education and nonprofit. And I ask because I'm not a parent, thank God, yet. But I have been a teacher. I am in youth mentorship. And it does show that there's a connection. If you're not a parent, you're an older sibling, or you've had some challenges, or you've done some things with kids. So talk a little bit about your personal connection with children and youth.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that just like the reason why I went to school, the reason why I went to grad school, I had a whole different career. I was in HR for a long time. And I was like, this is not in my spirit, so I need to do something different. And so I decided to go to school to help Black kids get to and through college. Like, that's what I wanted to do. But I knew that there were kids that needed me, and not in a way like I was their savior or nothing like that, but like they need love as wherever they can get it. And because I'm a mom, I have just like an unlimited amount of it. And I see kids that need it or that want it. And so I just have it to give, you know? So I feel like that's kind of like one of my superpowers, because not only do I give it, but then I can also relate to the other moms. Because one of the things that I cannot stand is that people always blame parents. And parents do have a lot of blame, you know, but they're dealing with a lot of stuff. And, you know, you cannot just blanketly say, oh, the mom is not watching after their kids, because she's probably working. She's probably tired. Like, there's no telling. And so, like, I have that understanding, because honestly, it's not that much different between me and the moms that I worked with when I was working on the West Side, because I used to work out here. And it was, the only difference was where I grew up, or, you know, my family background. But other than that, like, I was just like them. So being able to relate to them, like, you can break through, I think, if you're able to make that connection with the parents. And so that's just something I've always tried to do. Like, I'm never going to disrespect a Black mama, a Black daddy. I'm always going to involve them in decisions to be made, because people in these systems are making decisions for these kids without their parents knowing.
For sure.
And I've seen the impact that can have, and it's not good. And so I just give them a little bit more grace, because I know what it's like to be a stressed out mama. You know what I'm saying? You're trying to figure out how you're going to get to the next paycheck, and you got to do this and that. You know, I get it. So I think that's like, that gives me a level of understanding for both the parents and the kids.
I'm a mom, and man, more ways than one. I am literally seen as the neighborhood mom. Johnny and I was just talking about somebody saw him in a picture with me and was talking about, man, you with Mama Pooh, like.
For sure.
That's always been. I'm a natural nurturer. I'm the oldest of 5 siblings, oldest grandchild, oldest great grandchild. So like, I've always been in that position where I was raised in the household in my early years with my great grandmother, who's 94 years old. And so like, you talking about a woman from the backwoods of Mississippi. So I have a really like Southern mentality, where family is the center of everything. Community is the center of everything for me. And when I had my children, I did have my children young. I had to drop out of college because I had my son. So like, that always played in the back of my head. Like, man, I went further than my parents were, because I was, you know, born to parents who were 16 years old. So I was a kid being raised by kids. So I tell people, like, I had to grow up with my parents. So I learned grace, because as I got older, I realized, like, man, my parents did the best that they could as kids themselves. So, and they gave me more than what they had at that time. So it was a duty of mine to make sure that I extend that to everyone else. And having my son made me realize, like, okay, you can't just do this for you. You have to make sure that he's good also. Like, you got to be strategic. I think one of the key things is, one of the young men that I initially grabbed in the 3rd grade, I used to see this kid walking by himself in our neighborhood. I used to have 2 jobs, and I got off my 2nd job one day, and it like 3 times I come in getting off the train, and this kid is walking past me. Mind you, I'm getting off the train at 10 o'clock p.m. Like, it could be a Monday. I'm like, bro, where is he going? And then one day, I just followed him. I was like, man, I'm going to follow this kid, see where he going. And I saw what house he went in, and I initially was like, all right, I ain't going to say nothing to him. But then he started coming to the park where I was working, and we had a conversation, and I realized, like, he told me one day, he's like, man, I just walked so that I'd be sleepy when I get there. So his house was the drug house. And so this kid, you talking about like 8, 9 years old, he just walking the street so that he could be so tired that he just go to sleep when he get there. And something was like, I to this day, I was like, man, God, you can't tell me God ain't real, because I didn't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. And I ended up taking him. And I was like, let's see what happened. And like, his mom let him, not that she gave him away, but I think she also knew she wasn't in a place where she could raise him. I was like 20-some years. I'm talking about young. And he turned 23 the other day. We celebrated his birthday. And I was like, that's my son. You know what I'm saying? Like, no legal papers, no nothing. That's my son. I've had him since he was 9 years old. Like, not that he can walk to his mama crib from my crib. But man, I'm not gonna let him, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's telling me in so many ways, like, man, if I stay here, I ain't gonna make it. And the shorty come with me. And my parents was like, I guess he's staying with us then. Like, you know what I'm saying? But he's been raised with my children. So like, I think the part of parenthood, when you really, there's one thing to be a parent. It's one thing to be a mother. It's another thing to be a parent. Like, parenting comes with a different level of consciousness and responsibility and discipline, right? Like, it's a completely different thing. So like, I don't just parent my kids. I parent every kid that come in my path, because they may not have a parent at home. They got a mom and a daddy, but they may not have a parent. It's different. So I see myself as someone that, like, God tapped and was like, all right, you gonna parent this area right here where you got some leverage, you got a little weight over here. So these kids need to see you parenting your kids, and it has worked in my favor, because I just told someone earlier today, I was like, man, I ain't never feared for my kids in my neighborhood, because everybody know them, because they know they mama. So my kids can walk, they can go where parks, everything. I don't fear for my kids, and everybody sees them as like they little brothers and sisters. So when you create that element outside your home, like, that's that village that we keep saying don't exist no more. But who gonna create it? Exactly. You got to start somewhere. So there we go.
For sure. Definitely.
Man, I'm a new father. I am.
Congrats.
I'm a new father. Appreciate it. My daughter turned 2 on June 29th. I ain't gonna front my mood. Look, I learned so much about God through my daughter, bro. He's so intentional about everything. Through the way, like, when they use the bathroom, it's a smell to let you know that they need to be changed. When something, it's a perfect design to let the parent know, right? It taught me to be selfless. Right? Because there's so many things I was focused on myself and what I needed to do. But I got to prioritize my baby. That's my heart, boy. I be so impressed by the things she pick up. You get what I'm saying? And it's like, I watch her and I maneuver her. I'm like, yo, she different. Like, I'm like, I don't know if I'm just being, I'm like, is this like what kids supposed to be doing in this age? It probably is, but I'm just enjoying the just being a father, right? And it moved me in a way where I realized how important it is for a man to be nurturing. I grew so much as a father to that. Like, and it's so crazy because I nurture the kids now at the school. And it's transitioning to that, you feel me? And I'm telling them about the importance of emotional incarceration and things like that, right? You get what I'm saying? Like, holding it back, and it's like I don't understand why this is, or that don't seem like it's out of the norm for them, right? But I learned nurturing through having my daughter. But as far as like the reason why I started working with kids, so I'm making a long story short. So I'm gonna get direct to it. I'm finna blow my brains out, right? Cause I didn't know who I was. I had an identity crisis after football, so I asked God, who was I? I ain't got no identity, but I don't want to walk around on earth doing nothing. He led me to a serial killer documentary. I was confused. But in the serial killer documentary, it was emphasized on the childhood. You feel me? So I went to school for it, and I ended up getting a master's in forensic psychology because I wanted to study the childhood. So I worked at a juvenile for 4 years, to study the kids as a subject, only to find out they need guidance and love and mentorship and things like that. You feel me?
Yes.
So that drew me to that. And then as I kept like moving to different places, because I get signs like it's time to move. Like one of the kids be like, you can't keep telling me this when I come up in here. You know what I'm saying? I need to hear this before I get here. So I'm like, all right, God give me a sign, it's time to move. So I go to different schools and it'd be like things I'm saying. I'm like, I don't know. I kind of see it in the way of systems. I feel like it's systems that's molding the mindset of kids.
Yes.
And sometimes the advantage is taken. It's an advantage taken of when the parents is working, right? They're doing a lot of things. There's a lot going on. You feel me? Like, and the kids get exposed to things that could be from other kids or whatever's going on in the community and certain things in the culture. They gravitate towards it because that's what everybody else doing. Plus, I don't know who I am. I'm still 13. My brain is still being developed. You get what I'm saying? So they trying to figure out who they is and different things like that. So it's like, I feel like if I have knowledge or I can recognize this, I feel like God is showing me this for a reason. It's something that I must do. And I feel like it's really with our children, it's between good and evil. We just got to pick which side. You know what I'm saying? We're going to lead them because it's grown goofies out here leading them the wrong way too. But we'll get into that. So yeah, I'm sorry. I kind of veered off a little bit, but for sure.
Yeah,
That's
for sure.
nice.
You kind of touched on it already, Johnny. Now I'll actually go back to you to start it. But what are some challenges that our youth are facing today?
So like I said, lack of guidance, mentorship. I feel like one of the biggest challenges is, I'm gonna keep going back to it, the systems, right? The culture, the things that is appropriate. If it is a way like, I have a kid tell me like, nah, it's been told it's weak if I show that I'm crying. Like, you a human being, bro. Before anything, you a human. You get what I'm saying? You gonna cry, bro. Yeah, that's gonna hurt. Like, now if you get your toe ran over by a car, you gonna cry, bro. That's gonna hurt. It's
Somebody
okay.
died,
I
you
promise.
gonna cry.
Somebody, but you know what? And
Right.
we need to, right? But we done normalize. I feel like a lot of things is normalized for that to be a taboo now. It's so opposite, right? And this just the functioning of the devil, to be honest. And I feel like our children go through so many challenges. It's so hard to point out where, but I think what will really help is what you said, community. Bring community back, bringing that village feel back. You know what I'm saying? Mentorship, exposure to things that we talking about right now. Just being intentional and having people that want to be intentional with them around them. Because some people might be around the kids for their own personal gain. And that's not benefiting the child, because we gotta be intentional about developing it. You gotta understand that they're not gonna get it if you working in a city, if you working in a facility where you're gonna be around a child for a couple hours, you gotta understand you're not gonna see it overnight. This is a process. They know what they know. You get what I'm saying? So I think that's one of the challenges, just the systems that they go through. Identity crisis. They gotta figure out who they is, what they wanna do. But that comes through exposure of some things. You know what I'm saying? I gotta see what it is around this world that I'm good at, and a lack of purpose. We all on earth for something in this world. God is so intentional. Whether you felt like you was an accident or was on purpose. You get what I'm saying? So I think we gotta find what we supposed to do and who we are. We gotta find our identity, and that's what's gonna keep them from doing the things that they may see. Once you know who you are, once you know what you're good at, you're gonna master that. You're gonna kill that. And so that's one of the challenges I think we need to really truly embrace for our children. That's what I see.
Johari, I know you was about to say
wait,
something.
Lord, I have a list. But okay, I'm gonna go with two, and I'm gonna try to make it fast. So part of what you just said about like knowing who you are, the history, man. Like you need to know history. You have to know how you even got here, how we as a people got here. But even further back, I talk to my friends about this sometimes. Like the fact that we are all Black folks and we're here. That's a demonstration of our genetics.
Yeah,
for sure.
Our people came through, we know what we came through to even get here and to still be here. And, like the opportunity, like we shouldn't even squander that. We shouldn't, do nothing but honor that. And that helps you give you your purpose. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's the one thing. And then kind of also what you were talking about is like, it's the systems, but it's the adults in the system.
For sure.
Because there's so many that like, especially older folks, and I'll put myself in that category, but like some older folks, they're so disconnected. Like you were talking about that earlier about these attitudes that some teachers have about kids. It's the same thing, like even generally. So like, we know that the pandemic was very real. We know that these kids went through some stuff during the pandemic. They lost family members, their parents were out of work,
lack of food.
All of that contributes to trauma, right? But then when we got back into schools, everybody's like, okay, let's business as usual. Let's just, no. Why didn't the Common Core change? Why didn't all these requirements change? Because now you're trying to build them back up to that foundation, but they're so far behind, and that takes their motivation away. Like, why would you want to do that? Like, we're in the schools, we're working with middle schoolers, and, we got to teach them math and science to even talk about the healthcare field, right? So we're in these schools, and these middle schoolers are struggling with multiplication tables. Like simple ones. And I'm like, dang, why is that? But if you think about it, they were at home when they were supposed to be learning it.
Yep.
So if the system just goes back, okay, we're just going to pick up, and no, that's not going to work.
Right.
How are you going to encourage these kids to motivate them to be better, to even engage with schools? Like, you can't do that unless you take a step back.
Yep.
And people just aren't willing to do that. They get caught up in their own agendas. It's so many schools, organizations out here doing more harm than good. And I've worked for some of them. And I've been fired by some of them because I don't play. Like when I see that you're doing something that's hurting these kids out here, I'm not having it. And so, I think it's adults that are in these spaces too that claim that they're doing the right thing, but they don't even really bother to learn the right name or yield to the people that know what we're talking about.
Right. Yep.
Like, I'm a Black PhD. You can't tell me nothing about Black kids because this is what I do, So, yeah, I'll stop here.
Appreciate you.
Yes, two things that I want to touch on that you said, Johari, before you, Aisha. Definitely, I told a mentor that this is one of those industries that you have to have a passion for it. Yep. Just like the healthcare, you can't just go into being in a nursing home, fixing people's bodies. You can't just go in wanting to be a teacher. Those are passion-filled industries. You have to feel it. And then two, just drew a blank.
History?
Nope. No. I'll come back if I remember.
Okay.
You know what? One of the challenges has been for me, and like watching these young people, because when you start with kids when they're really young and you get to see like that process, what I realized was many of them really didn't think much of themselves, right? Because of the conditions. And one of the things that I realized quickly was like, I came to that conclusion because I was that kid. You know what I mean? When you are the oldest and you're the firstborn and things like that, like people tend to look over you having your own traumas, right? Like, and I got to a place where I was able to admit that, like, yo, I do have a bunch of childhood trauma, and it was suppressed, but at the same time, it was like nobody in my family knew how to handle that. Nobody talked about anything. You know what I mean? It was like very reactive. I'm dealing with young parents, young grandparents, all of those things. So I didn't know that space. But I also realized that for a lot of these kids, like the reason I can identify with them is, or when I see a certain kid, when I tell you I know I'm not a religious person, but spiritual, I absolutely am. And I remember one day I was standing next to a kid and I was like, man, something ain't right. I'm talking about I could feel it radiating off of this kid. I was like, man, something ain't right. Like I couldn't shake it. I was like, I got to say something, or at least put him to the side and be like, you good? You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to talk to me in front of everybody. But I realized that I kept seeing myself in those kids.
Yes.
And like spirits, recognize like spirits, like the broken kid inside of me, the little girl who got teased a lot, got bullied a lot. You know what I mean? I gotta be a fighter because y'all gonna keep messing with me, and I ain't gonna let you keep messing with me. So now I done turned into one of them. Now I gotta fight everybody.
Sure.
And then I when I look at them, I be like, man, that's why I can see when something is wrong, even if they don't open their mouth.
Yep.
I can feel it because I always wanted to be for kids what I felt like I needed when I was a kid. You know what I mean? I want to show up for them like that. And I know that a lot of them didn't feel worthy, but it also showed me that we have gotten comfortable in our conditions.
Oh, shorty.
We have gotten comfortable in our conditions.
That's
and that is something that I continue to press and push back on people. And I'm like, man, y'all can't get comfortable in this space because this is not it. And that's part of like my drive. It's like, man, I grew up in a household that even though my parents gave me all the love in the world, like I grew up with family members who was drug addicted. You know what I mean? Like I've seen drugs take my people out firsthand. And when you the oldest and you the one that's picking people up, you dealing with ODs, you dealing with having to rush folks to the hospital, like, and nobody ever asks, like, man, you good?
Right.
Because you are the oldest, and don't be the oldest black girl.
Yeah.
You know how to handle everything. Like, ain't nobody asking you if you good. You just, you got it. And I'm like, man, every time I see those situations or those kids, it reminds me that, like, man, somebody need to check on them.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because I remember not being checked on. It's not that my family didn't love me, but they didn't have the capacity to be like, man, let's make sure she okay. So now, as an adult, and I've gone through therapy, and I've gone through, like, God really had to break me down to show me all of those things about why I was so drawn to these kids. But it was because this work, again, I didn't choose it, it chose me, but this work is, for some people, they need therapy, they need all these different things. My healing is coming through these kids.
Sure.
My healing comes through working with these kids, showing up for them every day, being a consistent figure, being a mom. I can check these kids, and trust me, I ain't gonna lie to you, these kids will tell you, I will cuss them kids out in a minute. But it get them together, and they know, like, she doing it out of love. Like, I know she love me because she gonna show up. But that challenge has always been that I see a lot of kids don't have enough people that is willing to correct them or extend themselves and spend that type of time that it takes to create those, like, lasting relationships, right? But that crisis that we see is mental. Like I see a lot of my kids where, like, mentally they can't escape. Like, they are legitimately imprisoned in their minds. And if you imprisoned in your mind, nothing else looks like you know what I'm saying, an opportunity to you. Like, you can't see yourself going past that. So those conditions has been keeping us in shackles for a while. And I've always wanted to challenge myself to be like, you know what? Show up for them the way you wish somebody would have showed up for you. And then in that, I found my own healing. So, like, we gonna heal together.
Right.
We gonna heal together.
Man, I'm learning so much from y'all. For real. Especially when you was saying what you was saying about being the oldest girl. I got a daughter and I gotta be mindful.
Yes, you do.
For real.
I was gonna ask that. Are you guys the oldest?
I am.
You are? Are you, John?
I'm the youngest on my mom's side, but I'm like the second young. I'm the third youngest on my pop.
Okay,
for sure.
And I was going to bring that up, Aisha. That's a good point. Oldest children, a lot of people tend to look over because, we're the oldest. I had that same feeling. Again, family's there for me, love me, care for me, but then have that consciousness from their own trauma, from not being taught from their mother, their father, seeing what they were going through. And again, that's kind of where my passion came from, seeing myself in some of these kids. So definitely, that's definitely a good point. Talk a little bit, anybody, about partnerships and successful stories that you guys have at your organizations, successful stories that you've seen in some of the youth that you've worked with. Let's talk about some successes and positives with our youth.
I have so many in regards to guest speakers, right? I consider that as a partnership, right? So you bring in what you do to, you get what I'm saying, to show the kids something different, right? And like I said, a lot of our guest speakers have so many lasting, long impacts, and to even see them soak it in and then consider these things and still be talking about it over time, meaning they really, it's really marinating in their mind that they want to try these things, they want to try that. So I think that's in the best interest of children finding their purpose, right? Exposure to things. So in regards to that, but as far as like success stories with the kids, I'll say Man, I know I had a kid that got out of juvenile, and right now he just got a job, and it's like it's things that when you understand when you first encounter somebody in a certain state, and then to see them elevate, and then it'd be like a huge difference, right? And at the school, it's been a wide notice that our boys in the program have made a drastic change.
Wow.
Redirection in regards to that from anybody is expectations, right? Even mention like, all right, is this what Mr. Daniels teaching you? You get what I'm saying? So they, all right, lock in. You get what I'm saying? So different things like that. So see the fruit of your labor is really good. But even if I don't, I'ma still sow those seeds. You get what I'm saying? Because life gonna have to teach some people sometime, and I'm in that place where I'm accepting that. But yeah, man, it's been a lot of success stories. I used to train football. I used to train kids in football. So I got 2 kids that's in college right now.
That's what's up.
Playing in football
That's good.
based on our trainings and their hard work that they did for sure. So.
And like you said, seeing your impact and seeing your work and your labor come to fruition is definitely motivating and heart inspiring.
Most definitely.
For sure. Johari?
Yeah. So I'll focus on the partnerships because Sneakers2Scrubs is so young. And I'm really like a team of one for the most part as the executive director. So like the partnerships are everything. They, allow me to not work as many hours. They allow me to sleep a little bit better. So thankfully, because of the leadership of our founders, they already laid the groundwork to get people on board and bought in. So it was just a matter of me like continuing to lead that. So we work very closely with University of Chicago because the founders, 3 of them attend U Chicago Med School, and the others are at Rush. But like the university has locked in so much, but more so than the university, the medical students themselves. So like there are tutors going into these schools every week to meet with these kids. Like that experience in itself, to see medical students that are doing this whole other thing, spend time and invest in you. So that's been just really a saving grace. And then, we have our board members that are trying to just help me expand my capacity. So I would just say like the partnerships and the collaborations have been what has allowed us to make the impact we've been making. And so we've just been building momentum. So I'm excited to see where more partnerships go. But if I didn't have partners and people that are open-minded and like don't care if an idea comes from them as long as it's a good idea, like you need people like that. Especially when you're in these schools, like it's not easy to navigate some of these schools. It's not.
True.
You have to have the right formula in order. You got to have an involved principal. You got to have some parent engagement. You have to have those pieces in place for your stuff to go. So I just think that's important too. Like you need to be able to navigate all of that.
Yep.
You know what? I believe in partnerships wholeheartedly. Of course, much like yourself, like it's just me with Root2Fruit, and I've built this from the ground up on my own. But, again, learning, trial and error, and having to crash and burn.
Sure.
I was like, man, I remember praying like, man, God, just send me the right people. You know what I mean? I didn't just want partners,
Right.
because I also realized that like because so many of these kids have been they have been let down so many times by adults. I was like, man, I ain't letting just know anybody around my kids. It took me too long to build this up. And then, I bring one of y'all around and y'all jag my kids. Like, so I remember praying, like, just bring the right people. And to this day, I say that God sent me my soul tribe. That would be Jackie Hoffman of Peace Runner 773.
For sure.
Jordan Campbell of Alt Space Chicago. Mercedes Pickett of Earth Remedies. And, of course, Lieutenant Jermaine Harris. These are people that saw me and saw the work. And I mean, when I tell you the way that they have covered me over the past 3 years, so the safe zone that we run in our neighborhood is definitely, it's a space that we carved out on our own. Nobody gave us any nod, yes or no. Like me and those kids was like, man, this area right here is gonna be off limits. Like, and both sides, y'all got to understand, like, man, y'all, this can't happen right here. So to have young people establish something like that, and then to have like Lieutenant Harris would just come around and like just watch, and he pulled me to the side. He was like, man, I see what you're doing. You know what I mean? Then I met Jack, and I've been able to filter, because I've had so many boys, so many young men. My prayer was, and I always told the guys, like, listen, I can only teach you so much as a woman. That's not my job.
Right.
You know what I mean? You got to know your lane.
Right.
And even though I am a mother and I know I can handle it, it's not my job to teach you how to be a man. But what I am going to do is find trustworthy men to align you with. And I've been able to send, Jackie has employed some of those boys. Jordan has employed those boys. Mercedes has employed those boys. Like, that is the tribe that I was praying for, and I met them randomly. I've been doing this since I was like 19, and I just met them like 3 years ago, 4 years ago. So that's been my team constantly. Like, we just circulated all through them. So everything that I do, they support. Everything they do, I support. And I think that's how it's supposed to work. Like, be very intentional about what you've worked for and what you've built, and making sure that the people that align themselves with you are really a part of that mission, like that mission and that vision. So people can feel how passionate I am about these kids just by the way I talk about them. So I knew early on, like, just the way Jack cuffed those kids, cuffed those boys, especially Devontae, and Mercedes, teaching these kids about data science and how to be their own advocates, using their own data to be their own advocates. Jordan and I basically, like, I mean, the crazy part is Jordan is from Akron, Ohio.
Wow.
And he came to Chicago after seeing a documentary about our city and what was happening here. Wow. And he was like, God led him to Chicago.
Wow.
And this man was riding his bike, and we was doing like our activation in the safe zone. So we had a tournament, and mind you, this is the first tournament we had ever had outdoors in years, because it was a beef in this space. So nobody would go out there. I'm like, man, we finna have a tournament. Everybody got to come outside. Like, and better nothing happened while we out here. That man was riding his bike, and he came up, rode up on the bike. Like, you know, me and all of the guys, we wearing these shirts that say "Protect Our Hood" on the back. And the shorties is turning around like, man, who is dude? Because he came out of nowhere. He had his glasses on. He had his little like paperboy hat on. One of the shorties like, yeah, we know he ain't from over here. I was like, he's like, I just want to know what you guys were doing. Woo, man, Jordan had a camera, a very expensive camera on his neck. And one of the boys is like, are you a photographer? He was like, well, I do photography, but I'm really into art. And like, they started talking, and I turned around, and like 20 minutes later, I turned back around, and Jordan got the camera on Shorty, and he's showing him how to shoot. Like, literally, like, they just met 20, 30 minutes ago. Do y'all know that little boy now has his own visual and videography company?
That is amazing.
That little boy.
I
was like, yo, that's why you gotta pray for who you want to be around these kids, because
For sure.
he struck something in that little boy that day, and I was like, man, you trusted this camera about 3-4 G's.
Nah, for sure.
He gave it to him, and he was showing them, and just to see that grow into something, I was like, that's why you have to be mindful, and you have to ask God to show you who is supposed to be with you on this journey, because it's not everybody. You might not have 20, 30 partners, but you're going to have 2 or 3 that's going to rock and roll with you, and those are the ones that I prayed for. So I'm with partnerships, aligned partnerships.
Yeah,
for
aligned
sure.
partnerships.
Yep.
I love that. I love that.
God, so intentional, boy.
Man.
That's raw.
Yes. As we close, let's close on your dream. Thinking about Chicago youth education and nonprofit sector, what's a goal or what's a dream of yours at large for our youth here in the city?
I would say my dream is for kids to realize what's special about them. You mentioned something about this earlier a little bit. I was in a room with some kids, and I asked them, you know, as an icebreaker, what's something cool about you that people don't know? And they could not come up with anything. And my heart was broken. So that's my dream, for kids to realize what makes them cool.
I love that. I love that.
I say mine more simple. Embrace the Chicago culture. Like, we got a chance to experience footwork. You get what I'm saying? While I can, different things like that. We had fun growing up. Like basketball tournaments in the park.
Yep.
I don't even see kids hoop in the park no more. Like, it's playing dead man pickup. I just seen that like a month ago. I'm like, I ain't know y'all still do this. You know what I'm saying? So just embracing actually being kids and not maybe turning the phones off.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Turn the phones off, getting on social media, getting outside, being a kid, embracing that, knowing that you ain't got to grow up too fast. So that's my dream for kids to get back to what kids supposed to be.
That's a good
for
one.
sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So.
Aisha?
For me, it would be, I want every kid, every young person to understand that in any community, in any neighborhood, they are our greatest asset.
For sure.
Like they are legitimately our greatest asset. I would love, and this is my vision, the safe zone that we have. I would love to see a safe zone created, built, sustained, and led by young people across this city. Like,
For sure.
that was the whole point of us creating it, and it was created by those kids. I just showed them how to structure it and how to put it together. But I absolutely believe that, like, if more shorties saw young people doing the positive thing, like, they would realize how cool it is to, like, not have to be 5 in, 5 out, and want to do more of that, because they hear the stories about us growing up in our childhood. I know my kids say all the time, like, man, I wish I was born when you was born. So we could have had fun like that. And in my brain, that is what I want to create. Like that, not just nostalgia, but I want to give them a space where they can, like, let their guards down and just be a kid for a while. So I want to see shorties all over the city, like, own that space, lead it, and show the city that, like, nothing runs without us. Like, either y'all gonna help us to grow, or, you know, if we gonna be honest, we can either feed them, you know, the things that they need to learn and grow and be productive citizens, or we gonna watch them burn this joint down.
Joint down,
That's it.
For sure.
What a good conversation, y'all. Chicago educators, mentors, nonprofit leaders, teachers, deans, thank you all for coming out, sharing your insight, your wisdom, and your stories. Let's keep this conversation going. Follow us on all social media. Until next time, keep speaking your truth and keep speaking your power. See you soon. Peace.
Hey, that was fly, boy. Y'all smoked that